Hello everyone, my name is Ashley and welcome back to Worth the Read. In honor of Black History Month, we're going to talk today about Black authors. Books that I think are worth your time reading because they were definitely worth mine. So, let's get into it. The first book and author I would like to talk about is a book that made me realize as a young child that reading could be enjoyable and that books are entertaining, because when you're young you're only required to read books that your teachers give you and they all seem to suck. But this book was the first book that said to me, books could be entertaining. And that book is Fly Girl by Omar Tree. Fly Girl was published in 1993 and then republished in like 96 and became more popular in urban book world around 99, and that's when I got into it. I was in 8th grade in middle school, I think. This is I consider a young adult. It's a young adult novel. It is urban fiction, but I don't think it should have to be classified as urban fiction other than a young adult novel. It's based in Philadelphia, where I'm from, and in the neighborhood that I grew up in, which is Germantown. The author's name is Omar Tree. He's a very well-known urban fiction writer from Philadelphia, and this book is a coming-of-age story. Just like all young adult novels, I think, are coming-of-age story about a girl named Tracy, and it takes place between her 16th birthday and her 17th birthday. So it's basically a year in her life and things that happen, in the inner city as a teenager, and how to survive and getting mixed into things that you really shouldn't be into at the time. I don't think I was old enough, now that I think about it, to really read this book. No, I take that back. 8th grade was a good year to read this book because that's when your life starts to change. You go into high school and things like that, and you were introduced into things that you were protected from as a child. So I think 8th grade is a great year to read this book. I suggested for my students that I know are into reading and haven't read a coming to age young adult book yet. So I give it thumbs up. Fly Girls by Omar Tree. Great book. The next Black author I would like to talk about is Sister Soldier and her book Coldest Whenever. This is a hood classic, a urban fiction god, if you want to say, of books. If you're into urban fiction, you have read this book. If you're not and you want to get into urban fiction, this should be the book you start with. This book is about a girl named Winter who grew up wealthy in a sense. Her dad was a major drug dealer, so she really didn't have a care in the world, and then all that changes when her dad is murdered, and her life goes from great to horrible within a day. And the book is filled with hard life choices that you can either go left or right, left Twix or right Twix, whatever you go, but your decision in that determines the outcome of your life. She's faced with a lot of choices in this book, and she keeps on making the wrong ones, which I never understand. It's really clear, and at a point in it, she's given this ultimate choice to make, and again, she chooses the wrong thing to do, which totally ruins the whole rest of her life. I suggested this book in my senior year for my teacher for the next senior class because she was looking for different books to read, but unfortunately I went to an all-girls Catholic school, and this book is a little edgy for that, but it's a great selection, great book to read. The next author I would love to talk about is a person that would be in my top 5 favorite authors of all time, and her name is Zane, and she writes urban fiction. And my favorite book of all time, even over Harry Potter, is Addicted by Zane. I believe this is one of her first published books. This book is categorized in erotic fiction. So before 50 Shades of Grey, which I've read and they're horrible compared to Zane, this was that book. I believe I was way too young to be reading Zane. I did read her in high school. What happened was a bunch of my friends, we just started reading books out of nowhere in high school, and we would pass books around, and this was the first book that we passed around. I've read this book at least 7 or 8 times. This book is about a woman who ends up marrying her childhood best friend, and she grows up in this world, and her husband is very sexually repressed, so he doesn't like to think outside the box, and she isn't, and she ends up cheating on her husband and has all these sexual partners and these sexual experiences, and it ends up being her downfall. She becomes addicted to sex. And the reason I love Zane is because she develops very flawed characters. Very flawed characters. They have issues, but they're always successful people. They're, in the end, they always end up on top for the most part. From the outside world, these would be considered successful black people. She doesn't write characters that are stereotypical black, you know. So I appreciate her for that. I appreciate that these are educated people that are hardworking Americans that have their own businesses and things, but they have issues, which makes the books interesting. And this is a great book. I suggest this book to anybody who's never read Zane, anybody who wants to read Zane. Start with Addicted. I do not suggest the movie. The movie was horrible, trash, garbage. But the book is amazing. So if you like erotic fiction, and you like mysteries and stuff, it's all wrapped up into this one book, and that's Addicted. My favorite book of all time. The next author that I'm going to talk about is Jason Reynolds, and one of his most recent release, A Long Way Down. This book is about a young man whose brother is murdered in the beginning. His brother raised him. He lives with his grandmother. They live in the projects, and he lives by the hood rule of ethics. And your family member dies, you're supposed to avenge their death. You're not supposed to cry. You're supposed to suck it up. You're supposed to move on and deal with it. And he doesn't know if he wants to live by these rules. So the whole book takes place in the elevator. And he runs into people that have a conversation with him. The book is written in verse, so let me see if I can show you. It's short, you know, not many words on the page. So it's a quick read. At the end of it, I was just like, that was interesting. If you enjoy quick reads, if you enjoy books that make you think, have a deeper meaning, but really don't tell you the meaning, it allows you to jump to the conclusion, I suggest this book. Great book. I talk about black authors forever, and I'll probably do some more like honorable mentions, some other black authors that I enjoy reading. But my last book that I want to talk about is a book that I've talked about before, and that is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book is amazing. Read it. This is about the Black Lives Matter movement. A young lady named Star who grows up in your stereotypical black life where she's in the inner city. Her parents work. They're hardworking. Her dad owns a business, but she's still considered poor, which I don't understand. Your dad owns a business, your mom works, you're middle class citizen, but to the rest of the world, because you're black, you're considered poor. But she attends a private school in a rich neighborhood, and in the beginning, her childhood best friend is murdered by the police, and she witnesses it, and she's the only one who knows what really happens. So, this book, like I said before, will be hard to get through. At times, I had times in this book where I had to put it down and really remind myself that this is fiction, this is not real, these are not real people, because the scenarios that happen in real life. So, if you love a deep, heartfelt book, and you're looking for a black author, you're looking for a positive representation of family, I totally suggest The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. She's a great author. And here's my honorable mention list. R.M. Johnson, $1 Million Divorce. Great author. This book is about a marriage and how it can go wrong and whose fault it is. Very enjoyable read. Very enjoyable read. Ashley and Jaquavius, they have over 50, 60 books between them. They also write separately. They're a husband and wife duo. They write separately. So they have, I would probably say over 150 books altogether. Great authors of urban fiction. You can read all their books and not feel like you're reading the same thing over and over and over again. So I would suggest them to you. Caught in the Mix by Candace Dowell, another great black author. Actually, she went to my university, is how I found out about this author. She writes about young adult life, and I'm not saying young adult is high school, but I mean young adult is in college. There's not many authors that write young adult fiction and they take place in college. They're always in high school for some reason, but she does. So great book. And last but not least, Terry Woods, Truth to the Game. Another hood classic. They just recently made this a movie. I did not see that yet because after Addicted, the book versus the movie, I was so disappointed in the movie that I just can't ruin another one of my favorite books by watching the movie. Just can't do it. I might one day, but right now I'm good with just having the memory of the book. This is a trilogy. Terry Woods is also from Philadelphia, so I represent my city. So these are my honorable mentions. And that is my Worth the Read Black History Month video. If you're not familiar with any of these authors, I highly suggest you get familiar with them. If you don't read black authors, I also suggest try them. There's a whole world out there that you're being left out of that you can enjoy. It's entertaining. Have a great Black History Month. I'm wearing my Eagles Super Bowl win shirt today. We won, so go Eagles. And if you're in Philly, say what's up. And if you see me around, comment, subscribe, click the notifications to let you know when I upload a new video. And thank you for my new subscribers that have left me comments. I really appreciate it. I like this booktube world. I'm getting into it. I'm getting into it. Everybody have a great day and many blessings. Bye. Enjoy Black History Month. Go see Black Panther. It was great.